Life's a bitch, and then one ends up murdering you in your sleep, Derek said. Sherry honked laughter so hard it seemed she might choke to death on it. They were drunk enough to become sloppy and silly, but not quite teetering off the edge of bottomless pit drunk. Sherry was a girl with purple and pink highlights in her hair, though a month from now it might end up green and blue. She wore black lipstick and painted each nail a vibrant color. She loved designing t-shirts with absurd abstract art, and then she plastered them all over Instagram. That night she wore a t-shirt depicting two human bodies melting together in a weird psychedelic dream. Derek met her the second day after moving into the Sundusk apartments. He'd gone for a walk shortly after moving his belongings into the apartment and met her walking along a quiet street. She claimed she sometimes liked to wander about the neighborhood, curious to see where the will of the universe might lead her. If that was the case, the powers that be led her to him. "Oh my gosh, that's so funny," she said, nearly slurring the words amid wads of laughter. "Okay, your turn." Derek leaned forward with anticipation. Sherry took a deep breath. Okay. Derek mouthed the words. "Life's a bitch." She paused, tilting her head in thought. "Oh, I don't know. You're just trying too hard, Sherry. Let it flow. Turn on that creative faucet. Life's a bitch and..." She crossed her eyes and ripped a fart. Then she honked more out-of-breath laughter. "Actually, that kind of worked. Disgusting, but it's sort of the equivalent of life's a bitch then you die, but with a symbolic sound effect." Sherry reached for the bottle of vodka, only to knock it over onto the floor. "And you said to let it flow." "Indeed you did. I think we've had enough to drink, my friend." She moaned in exaggerated disappointment. "Is this farewell? Till we meet again." "Okay, give me a hug." She reached out, yanking him in. She playfully noodled his ear with her tongue. "Off to bed with you." Derek broke away from the hug and made his way to the door. "I'll have a new life's a bitch saying for you next time," Sherry said. "Sure you will. Good night." Derek stepped out into the cooler air of the night. It felt good after being in the stuffy apartment. His mind still felt blurry from the vodka. Drunkenness was a rarity for Derek. He somewhat didn't like it, though he was willing to do it to fit the social milieu. Inebriation made him feel like his head was floating away like a balloon. A text message buzzed through. It was Sherry. The message read, "Life's a bitch and then you marry one. Oh snap, ball and chain." A line of exclamation points followed the message. They looked like soldiers in a drill lineup. Seeing the message made Derek a little queasy. He turned on the Do Not Disturb feature and tucked the phone away in his pocket. The street was dead quiet after midnight. Quiet enough he could hear the hum of the streetlight that cast an orange glow over the stretch of sidewalk between the apartment buildings. It was within the glow of the streetlight where Derek glimpsed the tiny man for the first time, standing close by the splintered wood base of the streetlight pole. Derek probably wouldn't have even noticed him. He probably would have walked right by if he hadn't noticed the tiny man twitch. Derek paused mid-stride and looked more closely. He expected a cat slinking by the light pole into the nearby hedge bush, but what he saw made him narrow his eyes in confusion. The figure standing next to the pole was no more than 6 inches tall. It looked a little like a toy action figure. The body was shaped like a human's. 2 bipedal legs held it upright, a torso covered in a green gown. 2 thin arms hung at its sides, and the arms presented a unique distinction. The flesh displayed multiple colors, deep striations of green, brown, and gray, though the colors were a bit difficult to distinguish under the glare of the orange street lamp. Derek noticed the same colors weaving through the tiny man's head. Large, almost black insect-like eyes gazed up at him. Derek thought maybe he had stumbled upon a Star Wars toy. Some kid must have left it out there after playing with it earlier in the day. He stepped forward to pick it up, but what happened next paralyzed him mid-stride. The tiny man bellowed a bizarre clicking and buzzing sound, and then launched forward, little legs darting him across the patch of grass and up Derek's leg. Derek felt its little clawed hands pricking his leg through the layer of cloth in his pants. He felt it zip right up to his back pocket, where his wallet lay. That was the moment paralysis broke. Derek swatted his hand on his back pocket, managing to trap the creature between his fingers. He felt its body wriggling, felt the prickly texture of its skin. "Get out of there, you bastard!" Derek yelled. Suddenly pain exploded on his finger. He ripped his hand away, tumbling his wallet to the cement. The little man clung to his finger, gripping it with both clawed hands and worse, using the serrated teeth of its mouth. Derek's mouth opened wide at the horrific sight, a panicked moan escaping him. He flung his hand about, shaking it wildly, trying to throw the little man off. It maintained its grip, continuing to dig its teeth into the flesh. He knew if he didn't do something quick, the damned thing would chew through his bone. Derek dropped to one knee and used his foot to pin the lower body of the creature to the cement. It took a couple of tries, for the little guy kicked its legs about frantically, but finally, Derek managed to pin it down. He pulled, grinding his shoe into its body, yelling as he did so. There was a moist crunch and a high-pitched screech as Derek managed to rip the little man in half. A black, sticky goop oozed on the sidewalk, along with other red and gray chunks. The upper half of the body still twitched from the end of Derek's finger. He peeled away the severed upper body, wincing with clenched teeth as he did so. The body plummeted to the ground in its own goop, continuing to spasm and writhe. The severed halves of the dead creature looked as if they were performing an obscene breakdance amid its own guts. Derek examined his finger. A nasty-looking gash had cut him nearly down to the bone. Mangled tendrils of flesh dangled from his finger. He wrapped his hand in his shirt and looked more closely at the severed body of the little man. The mangled remains no longer twitched, and Derek recoiled at the sight of its mouth. It was a mouth that reminded him of some deep-sea fish, circular, with rows of serrated teeth, now soaked with his blood, spiraling deep within its gullet like a staircase. A terrible dizzy spell came over him. He vomited right there on the sidewalk. It took 3 stitches to repair Derek's hand. He arrived home early the next morning from the doctor's office, hand wrapped in bandages, hungover and exhausted. He had told the doctor he was attacked by a dog. Part of him wanted to believe it was all just some hallucination, and really, he had just cut his finger some other ridiculous way while drunk. Well, one could almost believe said scenario by the fact that when Derek returned to the place on the sidewalk early that morning, he couldn't find any evidence of the little man's remains. No black goop. Nothing. Exhausted, he called into work at the warehouse and told them he had been injured badly and arranged for some time off. Again, he told them of a dog attack instead of the truth. He noticed another message from Sherry when he turned off the Do Not Disturb feature. The message read, "Hey, I hope I didn't offend you. Hope I didn't trample on anything sensitive in my last message. Give me a call." He could tell Sherry the truth, couldn't he? They had known each other only a month, but they spent a fair amount of time together. Derek gave her a call, and she picked up on the second ring. "Hi," she said. "Hey, I am sorry about how weird I got last night. I'm such a dork." It's fine," Derek said. He sat down on the edge of the bed. "Look, something really weird happened last night, and I need you to help me see that I'm not crazy." "Okay," she said after a pause. "I know this sounds just weird, but last night as I was walking back to my apartment, I came across this Derek chuckled to himself. It's odd to say it. It was a little man. He was inches tall. It attacked me, got right on my hand and bit into my finger. I just got 3 stitches to repair it, and the damn thing nearly stole my wallet. A long moment of silence. "Sherry?" Derek said. "You there?" "Yes," she said. "Derek, you should have allowed it to take your wallet." Derek jumped to his feet, prickling with surprise. "What?" "Sherry, I'm stunned, Derek. You encountered one of the night people." "The what?" "The night people. It's pretty rare. I think the last confirmed encounter was like 5 years ago. Most of the time we never see them. If something goes missing in your home or apartment, it's possible one of them took it. They live in the sewers, old abandoned places." Derek felt sick again. He felt a headache coming on. Why should I have allowed it to take my wallet? "Well, from what I've heard, they're going to target you. They're surprisingly very vengeful." "Vengeful?" "Yeah. They'll keep coming at you if you don't let them have what they want." Derek pressed his bandaged hand up to his head. The headache was throbbing now. "I killed it," he said. "What? You did?" "Yeah. What was I supposed to do? It was chewing my finger off." "Let it have your finger too, Derek." An odd thought flashed in Derek's mind, an image of scripture. What Sherry just said sounded like some bizarre rendition of Christ's Sermon on the Mount. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. If the night people steal your wallet, let them take your hand as well. That's crazy! A wave of panic surged within him. "I know it sounds that way, but it's just the reality." "How do you know all this?" "Others have told me about it. One time I woke up to find most of my makeup kit missing. Still haven't found it. I was told that the night people must have taken it, and I was told just to let them be. If you let them steal your stuff, they'll leave you alone for the most part. That happened to me like 6 months ago. I haven't had any problems since." Derek paced back and forth, nearly exploding with panic. His mind swirled nauseatingly with all this new information. "I'd watch your back, dude. I don't know what they might do if you kill one of them." Derek cursed under his breath. Cold dread filled his stomach as he heard his friend's words. "I don't know what they might do." "Hey," Sherry said, "I think that, at least until this blows over, that it would be best not to interact. I just don't want them coming after me too, you know?" "Yeah," Derek said. "I'm sorry. I hope—" Derek cut her off by hanging up the call. He dropped the phone to the floor. Gazing at his wounded hand, the panic was replaced with numb disbelief. This was a situation that seemed so ridiculous that anyone just hearing about it would probably burst into laughter. But Derek was all too familiar with the ugly reality of it, the reality of what happened to him that night by the street lamp. As night fell, Derek checked his closet, hoping not to see a tiny figure leaping at him from the confining shadows. He counted every shirt. Not one was missing, nor any other item on the other shelves. He checked the kitchen cupboards, reassuring there was no tiny humanoid figure crouched behind a stack of plates or hidden beneath a cup. By the time 10 o'clock rolled around, Derek settled down for bed. As he laid there, everything seemed fine, didn't it? He saw no sign of another one of them. After all, encounters with such creatures were rare. Maybe that one moment would be his last. Derek's slumber was short-lived. A blaring horn joggled him awake. He figured the beeping would stop after a few moments. Maybe an animal had triggered someone's car alarm. But the horn kept on blaring, and it sounded close, directly in the parking lot below his room. New sounds emerged, the sounds of banging and crunching. Derek stumbled out of bed and went to the window, parting the shades. Lights flashed on a car parked at the farthest eastern slot. It was his car, all right, a black Ford Focus, visible in the dim glow of a nearby street lamp. He also glimpsed tiny silhouetted figures clambering over the surface of the car. Bam! One headlight smashed. Bam! The other. All the windows were getting the smash treatment, too. Derek's stomach knotted with dread. "Oh no," he moaned. "Oh no." It wasn't even the destruction to his car in and of itself that he felt the most dread about. It was the fact that this horrible ordeal still wasn't over. It looked like it was just getting started. Several minutes later, all the tiny figures scurried away in the night. Derek didn't dare go out to assess the full scope of the damage. He didn't want the full mass of them converging on him once he was out there. A heady mix of emotions churned inside him. Fear for sure, along with a touch of anger burning like a small coal beneath a pile of ashes. This all seemed just horribly unfair. First they tried to rob him, then attack him, and now because he simply defended himself, he had all hell to pay. Derek grabbed his phone and dialed the police. When he saw the squad car pull into the parking lot, he felt brave enough to head down. The police officer was a large Samoan guy with arms seemingly larger than Derek's legs. As big as the guy was, and considering the gun strapped to his belt, Derek felt somewhat safer in his presence. "Looks like you've had a bad night," the officer said, assessing the damage to his car. Derek was on the verge of throwing up as he soaked it all in. Smashed headlights, every window broken, shards of glass covered the seats, and the front hood was completely caved in. How the little shits managed that was unimaginable. Ah, yes, and they flattened all the tires. "What enemies have you made?" the officer said. "You said you saw it happening through the window?" "Yes, look." Derek lifted his hands in a gesture that seemed to plead to the officer for understanding. "This will sound crazy, but it's true. Tiny people. People only this tall." He measured roughly 6 inches between his hands, attacked my car. One of them even tried to steal my wallet. A look of unsettlement deepened on the officer's face. He sighed, placing his hands on his hips. "Well, this is bad news indeed," the officer said. "I know it's bad news. This sucks the big one, man. Can you help me?" Derek said. "That's the trouble." The officer scratched his chin and thought. "I can't. What you encountered are the night people, and state law declares law enforcement has no authority to enforce any charges upon the night people at all, for any reason. They are a protected people." "A what?" Derek's face crinkled with confusion and outrage. "You heard me, sir. They are a protected people. Look, man, they were here first. Before this town of Judson was ever settled, the night people used this land. They are a people of scavengers and hunters. Now that we have cluttered up what was theirs to begin with all our buildings, streets, and cars, we have to coexist with them." Derek ground his teeth, eyeing the damage on his car as he listened to the officer's explanation. He loathed the stuck-up and prideful expression on the officer's face. "How the hell do you call stealing my wallet and bashing my car in coexistence?" Both his hands remained thrust out before him. The fingers of his non-injured one arched like claws. A passerby might have thought Derek was making a silly impersonation of a dinosaur. "I have nothing further to say to you, sir. Leave them alone. If they want your wallet, let them take it. You will have less trouble if you let them scavenge what they want." The skin surrounding his body tightened as anger boiled inside him. He clenched his teeth so hard his jaw popped and began to ache. It was the kind of anger that burned every fiber of his being. He jabbed his finger at the officer. "You're an asshole. All of you. A bunch of insane assholes." "You better not be making a threat at me, sir," the officer said calmly. "Oh yeah, like I'm really a threat to you." Derek turned and waved away the officer. "To hell with it. Thanks for nothing." "I'm sorry." The officer began to say something, but Derek ignored him. He stomped up the stairs, seething. He felt like he was burning to death on the flames of his anger. He imagined smashing every plate in the house, throwing the living room chair through the window. He imagined thunder, lightning, and earthquakes ripping the entire world in half. He imagined screaming people as mountains tumbled upon them. Justice, damn it. He wanted justice. When he arrived back at his apartment, he didn't smash anything, though he did slam the door. Instead, he called Sherry. The phone rang and rang. Voicemail. He called her again. And again. Finally, she answered. Hello? She said in a groggy voice. I am so pissed. Derek stomped back and forth in the front living room, panting, flinging about his bandaged hand. Derek, it's like 2 a.m. Those little shitbags smashed my car. I called the police, and the police won't do anything, Sherry. Not a damn thing. They give me some horseshit about a people protected and exempt from the law. It's true, Derek. The night people aren't like us. They are a totally different culture from us. That doesn't mean they can just ruin my life. Well, I seem to remember you said you killed one of them. Derek nearly threw the phone into the wall. Sherry, why is this so hard to understand? It attacked me. I can show you my bandaged hand as proof. It was self-defense. Not when one of the night people are involved. After all, they were here first. We're intruders upon them. Sherry, did you like having your makeup stolen? A pause. What are you asking me? Derek squeezed the phone nearly to the point of breaking it. What do you think I'm asking you? When the night people stole your makeup, how did it make you feel? I was a little disappointed, but so what? So what? How can you say that? I just bought a new kit. It wasn't a big deal. Not a big deal. I have to pay for all the damage on my car. You had to waste money to buy more makeup. Derek, I'm tired and you're being a jerk. Bye. She hung up. This time Derek did throw his phone. He slammed it right into a stack of DVDs, tumbling a few of them to the floor in a messy clatter. He collapsed in the chair and realized part of his bandage had become unfurled in the fray of it all. He spent some time readjusting his bandages, his mind reeling with the nightmare of his situation, a dizzying spin of images of his damaged car, the smug look on the officer's face, the utter stupidity and denial in the words of his friend Sherry. Wearily, Derek made his way to the bathroom. He knelt before the toilet and blew chunks. Derek ended up auctioning his car to the scrap market. It wasn't worth trying to fix it up. Now he either walked or took the bus to get places. A week passed, and it seemed maybe the nightmare had come to an end. He didn't have any more encounters the rest of the week, but was still struggling to sleep. He lay wide awake in the dark of his room, intently listening to every creak, bump, and sound within and without his apartment. Every little sound could be a hint of the night people. midnight, and Derek finally fell asleep. He woke up only a couple hours later to something patting the center of his chest. Every muscle in his body tightened. His eyes widened. His heart kicked into high gear, pounding wildly. A dim, silhouetted humanoid shape stood on his chest. Derek had a pretty good idea what it was. He was becoming well acquainted at this point. When it made a buzzing and chittering sound, he knew for certain the night people were here. Derek remained paralyzed with dread. What did this one plan to do? Rip out his heart and eat it in front of him? Derek strove to sound assertive, covering up his fear. He didn't want to weaken himself before it. No way. Derek knew he was the real victim here, despite the insanity of the laws delineating human relations with them. I'm sorry about what happened the other night. Your friend attacked me, tried to rob me. I defended myself. There wasn't much else I could do. I don't want trouble anymore. You destroyed my car. I nearly lost a finger. Hey, go ahead and take some dishes from the kitchen. Let's put an end to it all. All right? The chittering and buzzing grew louder, along with something else. The little man shifted from side to side, and its large alien eyes glowed a menacing green. The shifting rhythm increased in tempo, and the green glow in its eyes brightened to the point that they lit up half the room. The shifting morphed into a rampant spinning. A steady vibration drilled into Derek's chest as he watched the creature spin like a glowing top. The green light intensified, growing into a bright blaze. and soon it shot from the creature's body right into Derek's face. A disturbing convulsion rippled through him. Every muscle burst into a spasm. The creature zipped away, banging off walls and the floor until it vanished. Derek reached for his face and rubbed his nose, eyes, and cheeks. His skin was tacky and warm. He climbed out of bed and went to the bathroom to splash water on his face. He used a spot of soap as well, a lathering for good measure. When he was done, he gazed at his reflection in the mirror. Beads of water coursed down his nose and the end of his chin. Strands of hair poked out in matted corkscrews atop his head. His skin looked pale and sagging. Please, God, I hope I washed whatever that shit was off my face. The next morning, he called Sherry. "Hey, I'm about to leave for work, can't talk long," she said as her greeting. "No, I understand," Derek said. It'd been a week since he'd talked to her. He had tried a couple of text messages, but she hadn't replied. "Another one of them visited me last night." "Okay?" "It sprayed some kind of green stuff on my face. I don't know what that might do. You ever heard of that happening?" "Nope. That sounds new to me. I hope you didn't attack it." Derek bristled at her comment, but buried it down. "No, I let it be. Hell, I even invited it to steal my dishes. I just hope they're satisfied. If it gets worse, I'll have to move. I don't want to move. I originally liked being here." "Well, I've got to go." "Yeah, hey Sherry?" "Yes?" He detected slight impatience in her voice. "I'm sorry about how I reacted last time. It just really sucked getting my car bashed in like that." "Yeah," she said with a sigh. Was it one of relief or exasperation? "That was rough. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I hope they finally leave you alone." There was a brief pause. Derek wanted to say more, but he held back. "Hey, I gotta go. Bye." Derek felt a little better later that day. Maybe the weird little freak had just wanted to scare him. He inspected the entire apartment and didn't find one thing out of place. Good. Something seemed to be a little better. Maybe matters were finally on the rise. Just a little bump in the road in the course of life. A little monstrous rut as he got adjusted to the new place. In a week or so his hand would probably be healed up too. He could fall right back into the rhythmic swing of things. He made himself a sandwich, fumbling with the loaves of bread with one crippled hand. He sat in the old leather chair, about to watch a movie. As he took one bite of the sandwich, a dull crunch resonated in his head, along with a sting of pain. "Ow! What the hell?" he said, slurring the words with a mouthful of food. He thought he might have accidentally folded a foreign object like a broken part of a utensil into a sandwich. Something hard and blocky tossed amongst his tongue. He spat the object onto his plate. It clinked there beside the partially eaten sandwich, coated with blood. A tooth. His body tingled with stunned disbelief. He set the plate down on the counter and went to the bathroom. He got a new surprise as he flipped on the light. His face was a hideous lobster red color, particularly near his lips. Not just red, but the skin was puffed with blisters. Derek opened his mouth, further confirming his tooth was missing by the huge front gap. He moaned in horrified disbelief. The headache was coming on again. The room began to spin. The nightmare wasn't over. Over the next few days, Derek continued to lose teeth. Sometimes it happened when he merely pushed at a row of teeth with his tongue, popping one out. Other times, it happened while he was eating. By the end of the week, a quarter of Derek's teeth were missing. The blisters on his face continued to rip away like peeling wallpaper. "Can you explain to me what's happening to my face and teeth?" Dennis said. He had unveiled the entire atrocious experience to Dr. Wilhelm. The doctor leaned against the edge of a nearby counter. He was a bald man with glasses and a dark mole on the corner of one cheek. His expression was as though he was constantly on the verge of saying a wry joke. He had this odd habit of squeezing his fingers together in between doing something, almost as though it was a nervous habit. The doctor shook his head. Despite the gravity of the situation, the man still displayed a ghost of a smile. "I'm sorry, Derek. I can't. When it comes to encounters with the night people, all I can do is heal what I can, and then wish you the best. What's happened to you is a curse. It's something more than medical science can deal with. You're just going to have to ride it out and hope you don't get too hurt along the way." A curse? Derek lowered his head in dejection. "Do I need a priest? I don't understand. And what do you mean by you hope I don't get too hurt along the way?" One of the last people to deal with the Night People curse. Lost both arms and half a leg. Rotted away. I hope it doesn't come to that for you. I suppose you could try a priest. If that gives you hope, give it a try. Hope, Derek thought. That word sounded like a sick joke. I wish I just allowed it to steal my wallet. I'd give anything just to have that moment back. I'm sorry, Derek. Anything else I can do for you? Derek shook his head. I guess not. Later that evening, Sherry invited Derek and a few of their friends over for a party. Music blared in the apartment while everyone danced and played card games. Derek, however, isolated himself on the corner of the couch, nursing a beer. Sherry tried to invite him to dance a couple times, but Derek hardly noticed her. He was turned deeply inward, and his thoughts were like circling hungry sharks around a sinking raft of shipwrecked survivors. He knew matters would just get worse. By the end of the week, the rest of his teeth will have fallen out. God knew what other horror would become of the rest of his body. Revenge was like a slowly burning fuse in the depths of Derek's mind. In that moment, sitting amongst the noise and commotion of the party, Derek decided that he didn't want to go out like this. He would go his way, and he would take as many of them as he could along the way. Determined, Derek got up from the couch, set the beer aside, and marched out the door. Derek, where are you going? Sherry asked, grasping his shoulder as he walked by. Derek ignored her. His mind was a dark tunnel, focused on only one direction. His plan was simple and crude, but Derek didn't care about doing anything fancy. He just wanted the end, and he wanted some small sense of justice. Sitting on the edge of the bed with a fully loaded .38 revolver cradled in his hands, he waited for night to fall. The gun was given to him at the age of 19 after his father died of a brain aneurysm. Derek only shot it once or twice. Most of the time it remained locked in the safe he kept in the bottom back corner of the closet. He watched the sun fall behind the mountains, like a big red eye closing. As a curtain of darkness fell over the town, he lightly caressed the gun with one finger, while his tongue slithered over the edge of his toothless gums. A calmness had settled over him, a clear head. By midnight, Derek concealed away the small .38 in one pocket of a large pair of cargo pants, and a pack of matches in another pocket. Then he strolled a few blocks to a small gas station on the corner and bought a 5-gallon gas can and filled it up. The gas station attendant was a fat kid named Gabe with craters of acne covering his chubby cheeks. Gabe barely said a word in their exchange, just gazed at Derek with quiet suspicion. Derek lugged the gas can all the way to the outskirts of town. At one point, a man driving a Ford truck stopped and asked if he had run out of gas and needed a ride. When Derek turned down the offer, the man laughed, his eyes furrowed in amused confusion, and drove on. Derek reached his destination by 2:48 in the morning. It was the old abandoned paper mill on the outskirts of town, a building that was originally built back in 1931. He was told the night people inhabited quiet, dark places. Derek figured this to be a hotbed for them. When he arrived at the building, a message buzzed on his phone. It was Sherry. "Hi, Derek. Are you okay? Maybe throwing a party was a bad move on my part. Give me a call when you can. I know things have been bad for you lately. Please give me a call." Derek ignored the message. He set the gas can down and observed the scene before him. The building was a blocky silhouette against a sky twinkling with stars. A shooting star arced across the deep darkness. Crickets sounded their rhythmic chirrup in the surrounding area. A sickening emptiness resided in Derek's chest and stomach. He was a dry husk that might crumble to pieces. Yet, despite this feeling, there was a strange smile on his face, a large, toothless grin, as though he was the happiest man in the world. Derek decided to send one more message to Sherry before he carried out his plan. He typed in his phone, "Life's a bitch, ain't it?" and hit send. He picked up the gas can and marched toward the abandoned building. The main front doors wouldn't budge. Derek switched on the phone light and revealed a partially broken window. He used a rock to break away some of the protruding shards, and then heaved the gas can inside, having to drop it on the other side. It thudded on the floor and gas inside sloshed. Derek climbed through, dropping to the floor. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and shone the flashlight around, unveiling a sight of old lockers aligned in untidy rows. Some of them had been toppled over, laying askew. Derek then reached inside his pocket and slowly pulled out the .38. He cocked the hammer. He thought that shooting a few of these little buggers would be a lot like shooting gophers on his grandpa's farm when he was a teenager. "Come out," Derek said, shining the light around. "It's wrong what you did. You ruined my life." Then he heard it, a rustling sound in the corner to his left. Derek moved the light in that direction. Dimly illuminated by the small phone light was a small horde of them standing atop one of the lockers. All of them were clad in the small green gowns, the skin exposed on their arms and heads, corrugations of color, almost as if they had come out of some bizarre type of tanning bed. Large black eyes gazed back at Derek. "The least I can do is ruin a few of yours." He aimed the gun and fired off a shot. The bullet hit the front of the locker, making a loud ricochet. The night people scattered, chittering and buzzing as they did. Derek frantically shone the phone light about, but was unable to target any one of them. He fired off a few errant rounds, bullets hitting lockers. He fired until the gun was empty, and tossed the gun aside. Time for the last resort. Derek tore the gas cap off and splashed gasoline all around the room, on the walls, lockers, and some nearby tables. With the little bit remaining in the bottom of the can, he dumped it upon himself, showering it over his head and shoulders. The pungent smell of gas was nearly overpowering. Chittering resonated from the corners of the lockers, and soon hordes of them gathered around him. Not only were they appearing from the lockers, he also saw them dangling from the ceiling. He pulled the box of matches from his pocket, and just as he struck a match alight, swarms of night people descended upon him like a blurry curtain. He cried out, collapsing backwards, as the swarming wave of them pummeled him to the hard cement floor. Derek howled in agony as their funnel-like mouths sawed into his fingers, grinding away flesh to the bone. Hordes of them ripped through his chest, burrowing into his heart and other organs. Flames ignited from the errant match and roared over Derek's writhing body. Many of the night people were taken by the ferocious flames as well, screeching and flailing in the explosion. One last message buzzed on Derek's phone as he met his demise. It was a reply from Sherry. She had taken his message to be a joke and had replied with, "LOL, Now that's the Derek I know and love.